Hi and welcome to this devlog for Carrots from Heaven, a little carrot shooting game that I'm working on to learn more about game design and combat systems. If you're new to this channel, we talk about game development and we are sharing our journey as we're learning and going along. We are Snuti, a husband and wife team. Mine is wife today because Carrots from Heaven is a game I'm working on myself. On the other hand, together we work on The Life of Mr. Pips, which is a little cute game with a strawberry that we're working on. But for today, we're going to look at how my game is progressing. And last devlog, I gave out the build of the game in early development to get feedback and see what people thought about it and what they didn't like and didn't like. And you know what feedback I got, I was really overwhelmed by all the awesome feedback that people are giving me. Both like how they didn't understand things, or maybe not intentionally neither, but me seeing them experiencing it gave so much insight I would never have thought about otherwise, and for that it's becoming a much better game. Initially I was quite nervous about putting a build out so early, even with parts of the game not finished and you could walk off the map, and I knew of lots of issues with the game. But it's been so valuable to see things from a perspective that only fresh eyes can. I want to say a big thank you to Matteo Gandhi, Steph Devs, Ole Mattis, Spoony, Dojin Dev, Swaletti, Nick Custers, and everyone else who's been here along the journey, tweeting, emailing, leaving comments, and giving awesome feedback. Really appreciate it. Collecting feedback this way has really changed how I prioritize what to work on in the game, and I highly recommend for other people to do the same, as when you're working by yourself or in a small team, you can get very caught up in your own bubble. So based on all this feedback, I've been working on lots of changes for the games, and it's made a lot of progress since last time I had a devlog. I've been fixing areas where you could get stuck and also hide away from the enemy. Invisible walls to the rescue. I don't like invisible walls, but they are sometimes a necessary evil in game design. Also, some of the feedback was that it was not enough variation in the enemies, so I've been experimenting a bit more with having small ones, larger ones, fast ones, and different colors to indicate the different enemies, as well as like some boss levels. Hopefully it's a bit more interesting to play now and more variation in your playstyle and strategies that you have to use. One area of the game design I was quite concerned is that in the previous version of the game I had a type of oozing miasma coming behind the enemies which deals damage to the player. Quite a few players didn't kind of see that this was a danger to you and dealt damage. There's a whole new system which distributes these little spikes that come up behind the enemies, and I also think it's very important that when you walk into them they shoot up and turn a color and make a knife sound, so you evidently see that they are dealing damage to you and are evil, so you have to avoid them. And they also become very challenging when you have a lot of enemies in the field. And I think that's an interesting that you need to change your approach when you're playing to fit with that style. This system works quite simply by rounding the coordinates of the enemies and placing and checking if there's already something there, and then putting down more spikes, and then they work individually on their own. And that's how all these little spikes are working behind enemies. Something I spent way too much time on was the enemy attack. It doesn't look that amazing, so I feel a bit bad about it taking so long for what it did end up looking like. But my issue was the fact that the previous strike attack by the gorillas didn't scale when you change the size of the gorilla. The particle systems didn't quite work with that, and everything else in the game is like meshes and hard edges and colors. So I wanted to try to make a shader that when you do the attack it swipes through and looks a bit like watery, wavy lightning energy. Yeah, it's a bit strange. I haven't quite decided what that finally is yet, but certainly makes it easier for you to, as a player, see how to dodge the attack. I felt the particles effect were very fleeting, so you didn't know quite how to avoid it, while this one is very clear that it just moves straight through and you can dodge around it. And I think that at least for the bigger bosses, that makes it much more interesting for the player how to navigate and find strategies. One of the feedback a lot of people gave when playing the game, we also had friends around who just sat down to try out the game and didn't quite comprehend its fact that you need to hold down the mouse button in order to shoot, so there's a delay. The reason for that delay is because you have less movement speed while shooting, so you need to do a trade-off. that you move slowly while you're waiting to shoot, so the enemies can catch up with you, and you run fast when you're not shooting. So that was that balance, but it didn't feel right. A lot of players didn't quite understand how to even shoot in the game. They just ended up clicking instead of holding, which is why I have bolded out the words. But still, if you have to explain with words, there's something which isn't working in your design. But when I was on stream last week, I had this great input from Snuti that I should try a charge up system instead. So if you just hold a little bit, you send off a weak carrot, and if you hold it for a long time, you send off a powerful carrot. There's still some tweakings to be done to that, so the knockback effect scales with it, and maybe even the size of the carrot. So yeah, it has a bit more correct proportions depending on how you fire. But I think that turned out like really interesting, and I really like that. I got this new little UI for it, so you can see the bar filling up, and I was working on that. But yeah, still more work to be done there. I think this might be a better approach compared to the previous way of shooting in the game. As you can see in my Notion here, I have quite a lot of tasks still remaining, but I'm going to try to prioritize them. It's a struggle with the shiny object syndrome, where you just want to take the nice shiny things to work on. But things like game juice really make a difference to how the game feels to play, so I should probably really get around to doing those as well, which I've been putting off a little bit. One area of the game that needs quite a lot more love and work is the audioscape, or the soundscape of the game. I've been trying to add in more sound effects and make some more of my own, but it still has so much room for improvement. A good friend of mine, Tor Trillion, is helping me work on the soundtrack for the game. I think it's really shaping up and starting to make a really groovy feel for the game. We're considering to make the soundtrack layered, but not quite sure about that yet, so maybe have a layer on while we're in combat and not in combat. But yeah, a bit early. We're still working on fine-tuning the soundtrack, and yeah, it's taking shape though. I think it's starting to sound really nice. Unfortunately, I won't be releasing a new version of the game just yet. I haven't had enough time to kind of wrap up the different things to have a proper... Well, that's the thing, there's never enough, is there? So you just gotta do it at one point, but soon. It's gonna be soon. I still have yet to finish the final area of the game with the final levels, and also do lots more playtesting now that I've been changing the core mechanics such as the combat. So yes, there's still a lot to be done, but it's progressing well, and it's been really fun process and learning a lot about how to do better game design and combat systems. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone who's been watching, following along, and giving feedback and telling me what you think. I really appreciate it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we're going to be working some more on the life of Mr. Pips. There's going to be a devlog on that next week, and maybe we'll also catch you on Twitch one day streaming our game development. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have an awesome week, and I'll see you next time. I just wanted your face on the screen for a little bit. Whoa. Yeah. So we're gonna be working on some pips then?
Nah.
Come on.
We don't work on pips. Pips works on us.